Hey guys, it is currently 4:33 in the morning on May 23rd, but we're going to go ahead and talk about the 19th through the 22nd. So starting with the 19th, I started transferring Rowan the Healer's Twitter prompts over to a Google Doc so that way I can have them all in one place for when I start writing the book. So that way when they're used in the book, I can highlight them green, so that way I can tell that they've been used. And so that way I knew how many words I had written for it yet. And that ended up being 3,794 words, which was a lot. Then I edited the first Rapunzel research video, added another 90 words in Twitter snippets that day, did some mild map design and trail time stuff for Rowan the Healer, and I will show that to you as well. This is just a rough idea of some stuff for the book. There you go. Travel time here, how many miles they travel, because it's supposed to be roughly over the course of 2 weeks that they're in the woods, walking from the cottage that he finds Rowan in all the way back to Bayard's hometown. And this is roughly where they come in. They would be south of this, and then this is roughly the road that they would come in, and would need to come up to here first to go to Bayard's apartment, and then the next day, after a full night's rest in an actual building instead of out in the woods, they go to the hospital for one of the main plot points. By the way, those plot points that I just described to you are all things I have found out through the Twitter prompt process. I am nowhere near that far into the book. Obviously, I'll get into when I started writing it later. But this is all stuff that I've figured out from the Twitter prompts. I don't plot my books, so this is all stuff that developed naturally using the Twitter prompt thing. So that has been one of the best things that I ever did for one of my books before I started writing it, and I'm very happy with that. I'm not going to draw out the path that they take through the woods. That would take too much time. But I do know that the reason they can't just, like, cut across diagonally or anything is because it's inspired by a wooded area in Montana. The story takes place in Montana, though in a fictional town. It's inspired by a real forest wooded area that's there. And from what I've read, there's like a giant-ass wall that I think they call the Wall of China that runs alongside it, and I haven't looked into that a ton, but again, the forest I'm using for this book is imaginary, so I don't need to do a ton of research on that specific thing. But the wall I'm using is inspired by that, and there's only one entry point that someone, many years ago, dug under it, and it's the only way you can get into the wooded area from the wall, and the only way you can get out of the wooded area. So it's a long-ass journey. 14 days for Rowan, with him anyway, because Rowan doesn't do a lot of walking until Bayard finds him. And I needed to know most of those details before I could begin the book, because although I don't do plotting beforehand, I do a lot of design stuff before I start world-building type stuff without sitting down to, like, lay out a magic system, because I don't write magic. But after that I headed to bed, and then when I woke up I didn't do any more writing, so I wrote 3,000, not the number that I wrote down here for that day. I wrote a number that I don't have written down anywhere, actually. Give me just a second. Alrighty, so adding the 90-word Twitter prompt thing was what I was just doing there, because I hadn't added that on that day for some reason. And that was 3,884 words for May 19th. On the 20th, I started with writing a video script for something. Oh, beta readers. And that was 1,130 words. And then I've officially put PRV on hold, and I'm going to get into that just a smidge. I'm a pantser, again, that's important. But on occasion, I allow Twitter to get to my head, because a lot of people on there bitch and complain that pantsers is an invalid way to write a book, and that people who are pantsers can't write books, and they're terrible books, and you can always tell when someone is a pantser based on their books because they're terrible, and that people wish that pantsers had to disclose that they didn't plot their books, because if they knew, they would never pick up a book written by someone who didn't plot the book. And on very rare occasions, if I'm having a bad day already, I let that get to my head, and that was tragically the case with PRV. I let it get to my head, I plotted out a few plot points, completely threw away the original idea that I had created while pantsing the story, and that was about 5,000 words into the book. So I pushed on for an extra 30,000 words past that, hating almost every single second of it, to try and get to the points that I had plotted out. And it completely changed from the original idea, it sucked all the fun out of it, and I just couldn't push on anymore. And I finally realized that that was the issue, so I stopped. And I'm very happy with that decision, even a couple days later, and it's still definitely the right call. Both plotting and not plotting are both valid ways of writing. It's doing what works best for you, not what works best for someone else, and anyone who says otherwise can kindly fuck off. It doesn't matter which one you are. It's not some giant competition. This isn't some Xbox versus PlayStation bullshit. You can like what you like, you can do what you do, you can enjoy what you enjoy. Whatever works best for you is the method you should tend to work with, unless you're just trying something out just to see if that works better. But finding what works for you and running with it is important without letting someone else tell you what you should or shouldn't do, unless you're genuinely breaking the rules of something, like grammar. So I shelved that one. I do plan on coming back to it eventually. It's just right now I can't fix the issue because it's still too close to all of the book. So I need to close it out for a while, and eventually I'll come back and hopefully fix it. Then I moved on to John Doe, The Poisoning of John Doe. That is what that one's called. And I wrote 28 words there. 64 in Twitter prompt snippets, 176 in books and badges. Headed to bed. When I woke up, I added another 1,180 to books and badges, and that brought my total for May 20th to 2,578 words. On May 21st, I wrote 720 words in books and badges, 236 in Graham, 184 in Voice of the Wild Places Z, 254 in Pittman's Legend Valiant Fighter, 162 in King of Darkness. Headed to bed. When I woke up, I started edit 5 of Letters from Madman, and I edited 5 chapters there, which was 6,609 words, and I wrote 1,556 words total on May 21st. On the 22nd, I spent most of the morning dicking around on Netflix and editing Letters from Madman, but before I finished working on my edits for the day, I recorded and edited a Days Gone video, and throughout the morning, before bed, I edited a total of 10 chapters of Letters from Madman, which was 17,139 words, and by that point, I was in a lot of back pain, and sitting back there in the chair only made it worse, so I headed to bed about half an hour early. I had planned on trying to edit at least 1 or 2 more chapters of Letters from Madman, so that way I could get ahead a little bit, but sometimes that just doesn't work out, and I'm okay with that. I had known that my sister would probably be coming over for supper that day, because it was Friday, and she did, so I had wanted to get as much editing done in the morning as I possibly could, and 10 chapters was very satisfactory. But after bed, again, my sister was over, so I didn't do any more writing or any more editing. And then my next book to work on was Untitled Zombie, but I've shelved that as well. It needs a more concrete idea. I do love the characters, and when I come back to writing that book, I'm 100% going to use those characters again, because I don't just want to throw them away by any means. But I need more of a solidified idea. I am a pantser, obviously, but I do still know the end goal. That's different than knowing the end of the book. I almost never know the end of the book, and generally if I do, I don't end up liking the book. But I know the end goal. In the Bo Austin series, the end goal is to catch the killer. in the Carver Baxter series, the end goal is to find the criminal, whether they be a kidnapper or a killer or a burglarizer or anything like that. A burglar. In Books and Badges and currently Rowan the Healer, the end goal is a happily ever after. And I know those things. So writing to those things, knowing that that's the end goal, isn't the hardest thing in the world. Because those are clear, structured things. Those are crime novels, those are romance novels, those are how they end, generally. But with a zombie novel, you have a ton of ways to go. Is it just a story of them surviving? Is the end goal for the characters to find a cure? Is the end goal to deliver a cure? Is the end goal to find a new home, to find a temporary home, to build a place of sanctuary? What is the end goal? With a zombie novel, there's a ton of options. There's no distinct, clear, this is what it has to be. And that makes it a little harder to know where to go without a more solidified idea. And initially I had a plan, sort of, but then I changed my mind because it just didn't feel right for the characters. Maybe it will be right for a different set of characters in a zombie novel, but it just wasn't right for these characters in specific. And I decided to shelve it. I plan on coming back as soon as I possibly can to it. It just needs some time to sit, and hopefully I'll be able to finally finish a zombie novel that I'm happy with once I come up with a more clear end goal for a book. But after that, I finally started writing Rowan the Healer, and I wrote 220 words there before 11, which is when I take my hour break. And the 220 words are the only words I wrote that day, because any other words that I wrote were mixed in little tiny snippets from Letters from Madman, so I only count words written from there when it's an entire scene. So the 220 plus everything else I've done for the first 22 days brings my total for the month to 39,440 words. I am behind where I would like to be this month, but that's okay and is generally expected, just given how things go. The past several days, I've been having a lot of tooth pain. I think for the millionth time in my life, my wisdom tooth on my left side is trying to come in, the bottom one here. I don't know what it is, but generally at least once a year, that wisdom tooth tries to come in, and then it doesn't. So I'm normally in pain for like a week, week and a half, sometimes 2 weeks, and then the pain stops, and there's no more spot in my gum where it looks like a tooth is pushing through. It's generally something I have to deal with. It makes me pretty pissy. I'm very easily irritated when I'm in that much pain because I'm in my normal pain and tooth pain. So it's harder to focus on things because if I hit a snag in my writing, if I hit a snag in my editing, it generally angers me a lot more than it ever would, because when I'm not in a ton of pain, I have a ton of patience, and I'm more likely to persevere than I am to just let anger fester. But when I'm dealing with pain on top of pain, even more so than usual, it's a little harder to do that. So throwing myself into the last couple of days has been even harder than it was before that. But I am doing my best, which is all that I can ask of myself. The goal in the next few days here is to finish Edit 5 of Letters from Madman, and that's the primary focus. I'm going to be doing writing every single day, obviously, but I'm not going to worry a ton about word count. I'm primarily focusing on editing. If I want to finish it in enough time to have a little break before the next edit, and to make sure that I don't push into the month of wiggle room that I still have for this book, I need to edit 10 chapters a day today and tomorrow, roughly. And that's the plan. I'm only going to write for about 10 more minutes, and from there I'm going to work on editing for the rest of the morning until I go to sleep. So I have my fingers crossed that things go well there. I have my fingers crossed that things go well for writing, and by the end of the month I'm still hoping for 60,000, but we'll see how things go. But that is all that I have for this May work in progress video. I hope that your May is going great so far. I hope it continues to go well, and if things haven't been great so far, I hope that they get there. or at the very least, that they get good. But that is all that I have for this video. If you enjoyed, a like is always appreciated, and if you'd like to stay updated on my writing, my editing, the gaming videos I upload roughly every Friday, or anything that I do on the channel in between, feel free to subscribe. I'll have links to my authors pages, as well as links to my social media in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.